306 men vanished without a distress call. Everyone blames the ocean. The real answer was locked in a captain's cabin. On March 4, 1918, the USS Cyclops departed the island of Barbados carrying 16,000 tons of manganese ore destined for Baltimore. It was a routine supply run during wartime. The ship had completed hundreds of similar voyages, but this one would never arrive. Within 2 weeks, 306 crew and passengers simply ceased to exist. No wreckage, no bodies, no final transmission. The ocean had swallowed them whole. For a century, this disappearance became the crown jewel of Bermuda Triangle mythology. Paranormal theorists invoked magnetic anomalies, underwater vortexes, even alien abduction. The narrative was seductive, a massive naval vessel gone in peacetime waters defying explanation. It fit perfectly into the Bermuda Triangle legend, a graveyard where physics bent and ships simply evaporated. But here's what that narrative got wrong. The Cyclops wasn't a victim of the supernatural. It was a victim of human judgment, bad judgment, made under pressure by a captain who had limited information and less time to make the right call. The Cyclops was a behemoth, over 500 feet long, nearly 55 feet wide, and displacing 19,000 tons. She was one of the largest cargo vessels in the U.S. Navy at that time. The ship had weathered countless Atlantic crossings. Her captain, William Thomas Worley, was an experienced officer with decades at sea. Everything about the Cyclops screamed reliability, but the Cyclops carried a fatal vulnerability that few aboard understood. Her hull was structurally compromised. The massive manganese ore cargo, 16,000 tons of it, created stresses the ship's frame couldn't properly distribute. And on the return voyage, the hold wasn't the only weight pressing down on Worley's decisions. Worley was under orders. The Navy needed that manganese in Baltimore. It was wartime, and the metal was essential for munitions production. The pressure wasn't just institutional, it was patriotic. Deliver the cargo, make time, don't delay. Every delay meant ammunition factories sitting idle. That's the calculus Worley faced, safety concerns against military necessity. The voyage began smoothly, but as the Cyclops moved northward through the Atlantic, the weather deteriorated, storm systems built, the sea grew rough, and with each wave the manganese ore shifted. With each shift, the structural stress on the hull increased. Worley knew the ship was straining. He made a decision: maintain course and speed. Reduce course and he'd miss his delivery window. On March 9th, a passing ship spotted the Cyclops in the distance. Visibility was poor, the seas were chaotic, but the ship appeared intact, moving forward. No distress signal, no indication of trouble. That was the last confirmed sighting of the Cyclops and everyone aboard. By March 13th, the Cyclops was overdue. By March 20th, the Navy declared her lost. And here's where the supernatural story took root. No wreckage was ever found, no life rafts, no floating debris. The ship seemed to have been erased from the ocean entirely. But the absence of wreckage isn't mysterious, it's mechanical. The Cyclops, under stress from its cargo carrying too much weight, pushed too hard in rough seas, suffered a catastrophic structural failure. The ship broke apart. The manganese ore, 16,000 tons of it, sank immediately to the ocean floor, dragging the vessel down with it. Wreckage doesn't float. 16,000 tons of ore ensures that nothing remains visible at the surface. The crew went down with the ship. In the cold Atlantic in 1918, survival time in open water was measured in minutes. There were no rescue ships nearby. No distress calls were received because the radio room, like everything else, was underwater. This explanation didn't emerge from folklore. It came from naval engineering analysis, from studying the Cyclops's design flaws, from understanding the decisions men made under pressure. In 2003, a team of researchers examined the historical record and concluded what the Navy had quietly suspected for decades: structural failure, not the supernatural. Captain Worley made a choice: push forward or turn back, deliver the cargo or preserve the ship. Under the pressure of wartime orders with incomplete information about his vessel's true condition, he chose to continue. That choice cost 306 lives, not because the ocean is unknowable, because a man made a calculated decision that turned out wrong. The Bermuda Triangle myth needed the Cyclops to be inexplicable. It needed a ship that vanished cleanly, leaving no answers, only questions. But the real story, the one supported by evidence, is more human and more tragic. It's about a captain who didn't know his ship was breaking apart, about military pressure overriding caution, about 306 men who paid with their lives for decisions made in uncertainty. The USS Cyclops wasn't the Bermuda Triangle's first victim. It was the first casualty of a legend built on incomplete information, on our hunger for the unexplainable. The truth, structural failure under load, compounded by human judgment under pressure, is less sensational, but it's far more real. We'll never recover the Cyclops. The manganese ore keeps her anchored to the ocean floor, But we can honor the men aboard by understanding how they died, not by magic, not by anomalies, but by the weight of decisions made in the fog of incomplete knowledge. That's the real cost of the Cyclops, not a mystery, a lesson. Subscribe for the real stories behind maritime legends, where the truth is always stranger than the myth.